Hopefully now you guys can hear me on YouTube. Sorry about that, guys. The first little bit of the stream had no audio for YouTube. Oh man, that is so embarrassing. Luckily, both my brother and Adobe Creative Cloud both mentioned that there was no sound, and Mark just said that as well. I do apologize for that. Let me go through and re-say what I was saying for everybody on Instagram. What we're going to be working on today is we're going to be working on creating an illustrated landscape in Adobe Illustrator CC. Now, this is a style that I worked in quite a bit last year around the same time. I worked on it from probably April of last year till about maybe August or so. And then I just stopped working on it because I got a little bit too busy. But what we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to create a brand new landscape from scratch in Adobe Illustrator. This stream is probably going to be about an hour or so. We did start a little bit late today, so I do apologize for that. For those of you who are just tuning in, from here on out, we're going to be jumping on YouTube on Mondays and Fridays. Here, I'll bring this over for everybody to see on Instagram, going live Mondays and Fridays at 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Pacific time. And then we're also going to be going live on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific time on Behance. So please definitely remember to tune in for that. Again, I do apologize everybody for the audio mishap. I need to pay attention a lot more to that. Thank you so much for everybody who let me know that there was no audio. And so what I do with these illustrations now, I would suggest if anyone is trying to create a landscape illustration like this, you may want to actually sketch out what you want to do first before you jump in. I am not going to do that. I'm actually going to just jump in and start creating and just see what forms from that. That's what both of these illustrations that you're seeing here, that's how these were created. These were created completely spur of the moment, with no plan, no sketches. Actually, I take that back. This illustration right here on the right actually did have a little bit of a plan, and it did have a sketch because that was originally going to be for my website, for one of the first renditions of my website. Okay, so I'm just scrolling through. Hello to everybody on Instagram. Again, if anybody has any questions on Instagram or on YouTube, please feel free to say hello and ask away. Hello. Oh, wow. Brad Woodard. Hope you're doing good, man. Hope you and your family are staying safe. So glad to see you jump in here, man. It's really exciting because it seems like this is the first time on YouTube that we've had a larger audience, and that gets me really excited about all of this process. So for those of you who are on Instagram, where it's going to be a little bit harder for you guys to see what we're going to be doing, I would definitely suggest you guys check out my YouTube channel, where I'm currently live right now. And I would tune in so you guys can see it in its entirety. You can find my YouTube channel by typing in Rocky Rourke in the search on YouTube, and you will find the live stream. Okay, so the first things first, I'm not going to be touching color right now. That's the number one thing I don't do when it comes to these illustrations. Instead, what I do is everything I create is in grayscale. A lot of people always ask me why I create everything in grayscale first. And that is because I don't want to focus on the color. I want to focus on the overall composition of the illustration. Let's see. If anybody has any questions, again, please feel free to ask away. I'm going to try and keep an eye out for both Instagram and YouTube, as well as working, as well as trying to get this illustration to a good point today before we jump off. This illustration will be probably picked up again on Friday. Or I might even pick it up when I'm working on the live stream on Tuesdays and Thursdays this week on Behance. I have one quick question that came in on Instagram. Which software do you use to illustrate? Right now, I am using Adobe Illustrator CC to do my illustration, but I also use Adobe Fresco for my illustrations as well. That's where I do a lot of my digital sketches. Okay. So first thing I did here was I created a big rectangle for the background. This is going to be the sky color and the sky background. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to start working on creating some varying landscapes. You can see in this one, we have different types. We have this sharp angled slope here. We have these hills. We have multiple layered hills going up. And so what we're going to do is we're going to create something like that. So the way that I do this is I will first go and grab, we'll grab a darker color gray, and we'll use the pen tool for this. So we're going to click here. We're just going to create a line. Or actually, we're going to start a little bit higher. We're going to start up here, and then we're going to come down like this. Go out again, and we're just using, as we're clicking here, we're using the shift key. And that's how we're able to get these perfect angles. So when you hold down the shift key with the pen tool, it will usually snap to the 90 and 45 degree angles, and it'll keep your lines relatively straight. All right, and so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually, let's see. Oh, we have a question from my brother Mark. Do you use a vanishing point? So with these types of illustrations, because these are not perspective illustrations, we don't use a vanishing point. If this was, we would. I generally don't create illustrations that way. I'm not the biggest fan of 3D, but I will be trying to do a 3D illustration sometime soon. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm selecting these anchor points. Just these right here. We're not selecting the ones that are the container of the shape. So not this one, this one, this one, or this one. And so what we're going to do is, you can see right here, we've got the corner widgets here for rounding. So we're going to just start dragging it and rounding the corner just like that. Now sometimes, you don't always want to go completely rounded. You do want to leave a little bit of space because you want that slope to look nice. Okay, so you can see here I just rounded it, and we're going to hit Shift X, which switches the color, and now we have our first sloping hill. Now, it was that easy. That's how easy it is to do this. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on these anchor points down here, and we're actually going to bring those up a little bit. I could do that. I could also just leave it and draw another rectangle on top since I'm already doing one. But what we're going to do here is we're going to make this water. So we're going to change the color here. And the reason why I didn't bring up the original file for these illustrations, these are actually Dribbble shots that I took off, is because of how big the actual files are. These files are actually really big, and so it could potentially crash my my camera setup. So that's the reason why we're not opening that file. We're creating everything from scratch here. Let me see. I'm going to quick look through Instagram to make sure there's no new questions. Nope, no new questions. Perfect. All right. So the next thing we're going to do here is we're not just going to leave it like this. We also want to include these parts here. This is like kind of like a varying of the landscape. It shows that maybe this is like a cliffside to this. So it looks like the landscape is sloping downward and upward. And so that's what we're going to create next there. So we're going to do something very similar that we did here. We're going to take this. We're going to create we're going to grab a color one shade lighter. And we're going to start here. And we're just going to go down just like that. Just basically how we did it the first time. We're going to take those corners, and we're going to round them just the same. Let's see. Gabby Designs on Instagram asked if I use a drawing tablet. So I use the iPad Pro for a lot of my illustrations. Whenever I do sketches for illustrations, I will be using that. But generally, sometimes I don't use it for specific types of illustrations. So like, for instance, this one here, we wouldn't be using that. Oops. So I think what we're going to do is we're actually going to increase the size of this a little bit. And we're going to just create one small little spot here. And round these corners. Not bad, not bad. We're really cooking here. We're starting to get things rolling. All right. So now let's go ahead and start working on the background a little bit more. Let's add some more elements. So we've got these like rolling hills here. Let's actually make over on this side, the right side of the composition. I'm gonna move my camera on for Instagram a little bit so you guys can see. Let's actually make this a sharper slope. So we're gonna go, whoops, not that far. We're not going to hold down the shift key for this angle because we're not going to do a perfect 45-degree angle, because if we did, it would go straight up like this. We don't want that. So we're going to judge how we want it. Come down. And we're going to line it up so it's a perfect rectangle. And now we're going to play with how far out we want it. So let's actually copy this and send it behind. And let's figure out how far we want this to go out. I think I probably want it to go about there. Yeah, I feel like that feels pretty good. Change the coloring of that a little bit. And then we're going to layer. If you notice one thing about some of these illustrations, you can see it in this one here. I like to layer water so that you can see that maybe this is a separate lake or pond, or maybe this is a separate, this is an island or islands that are floating in between these body of water. So what we're going to do is we're going to create another little bit of water here. We're going to paste that behind, and we're going to select the same color. We have water there. So now we have this layering effect. We have the water up front, or up in the back. We have the water up front here. And so we have a varying degree of, God, what's the right word? I'm having a brain fart right now. We're having this nice varying degree of different levels here. And if anybody knows the right terminology that I'm trying to figure out in the back of my head, please feel free to mention it. All right, so we're gonna do another sloped, or excuse me, rolling hill here. I actually like that. I like the term rolling hill. I think that's good. Dimension, that's the word I was looking for. I was looking for dimension. So that's what we're doing here, is we're creating multiple dimensions with these shapes. Holy cow, 18 people are currently tuning in on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you guys are if you guys are liking what you are seeing, please feel free to hit that like button on YouTube. And if you guys are liking what you're seeing on Instagram, please hit that heart button. I really appreciate hearing what you guys think and seeing what you guys think and tuning into these live streams. All right, so I like that. We're going to go and do one more on the right, or excuse me, the left side here. And we're just going to also do it a slope, just a little bit different from the one that we have on the right. And we'll have to take this down just a hair. So we're going to copy this and we're going to send it behind the water. We're also going to make sure this one is as well. So we're going to put this in front. And then we're going to change the color of that. And so I already can tell that there's one thing that I need to change about this. Right up top here, there isn't a lot of space. So we actually want more space. So we're going to drag this down a little bit. That's okay. And then we're going to drop this down as well, because we want this to still be overlapping to an extent, but we don't want it to be too much. Thank you so much, Mohammed. Yesterday I watched your last stream. It's simply amazing. Thank you so much. I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to stick to my live streaming schedules that I'm trying to set up, specifically with Behance and on here as well. And I'm going to try to go live on both YouTube, Behance, and Instagram simultaneously. That way I can reach people who may not be able to tune in to either one of those streaming services. Again, though, if everybody has YouTube or has a Behance account, I would definitely suggest that you guys go on there and you check out the live streams. There's a lot of people who are doing live streams on both services, and I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of stuff that you guys are going to find interesting. All right, so we are really, this is looking good. I think we're going to do one more area over here, and then we have the basic shape of our landscape. right. And one thing that you'll notice, and a lot of people tend to ask me this about my illustrations, is how many layers do I use? You can see this right now. I'm not using any, I'm only using one layer. That's it. I'm not using multiple. I don't think that with these illustrations you really have to use layers. I simply will take something and paste it behind something else, and that's how I go about creating the different elements. All right, so I think we're good about there. Go ahead and make this a little bit uniform. And if this isn't something that is going to be on a website, normally I'll just use a clipping mask at the end to clean this up. But if it is going to be something that's going to be used on a website, then I will try and line everything up on the sides. Okay, so we basically have our base landscape shapes here. Very simple, nothing's too complicated here. Oops, setting down my phone so you guys can see it okay. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to start adding some bigger detail to it. So the first thing that I'm going to add is I'm going to add some clouds. And the way that I go about doing clouds is actually relatively easy. So I'm going to pull this up so I can focus on this. I'm going to hit the whoops, what happened there? Technical difficulties. So I'm going to tap on the L key to get the ellipses, and I'm just going to draw a couple of circles. Color doesn't matter at this point, and we're just going to play around with the size a little bit. I do clouds in many different ways, but this is my favorite and my default state of creating clouds. So now what we're going to do is we're going to select all of the bottom anchor points and just hit delete. And then I like to hit Shift M, which brings the shape builder. And when you hit Shift M, it will automatically close off your shapes that you have here. So now they're all closed off. There's no, there's a line right here. So we're going to take this and we're going to just drag it, Shift Option, and we're going to have a copy of it. So now we can zoom in and we can bring this down here, and I'm going to group this together. Bring this down here. We're going to start just forming some clouds. And you can do this any way that you want. You can have any type of clouds too. You don't have to have exact clouds like I do. And notice how all the clouds are exactly the same. We're going to change that. This is just like a simple way of just like figuring out placement and figuring out, okay, how many clouds do we want? You know, what sizes do we want? Do we want a lot of clouds? Want a little bit of clouds? Okay, so I think that's good. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to select the pieces of the clouds, and we're going to manipulate them a little bit. And so now you see that like that cloud looks completely different from the others. So this is why I don't always combine using Pathfinder, because we want to be able to manipulate these and change them and make them different from each other. Let's see, got a little question if I could switch this to landscape mode. Yes, I can. I haven't done this before, but hopefully this will help you guys see this a little bit better. There we go. So if everybody who's tuning in, if you guys can just turn your cameras, let me see if I can fix this a little bit for you guys. There we go. That's the best that I can do. Hopefully that helps. All right. So now we're going to get back to these clouds here. And again, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask away. I'm going to try to answer any and all questions. I'm liking this. I think this is turning out better. And by the way, a lot of this, what you're seeing here, is complete learning experience. For the longest time, I didn't do clouds this way. I would create one, I would combine it, and I wouldn't do anything else. I would just create like 5 or 6 different clouds, and use them throughout illustrations. Then I found if I just saved the overall construction of the cloud, like how we're seeing here, where it's 3 pieces, I was able to fix things and make them a lot better. So we're going to make this a single 2 puff cloud. That's why I sometimes will call it puff. All right, and I think this is almost good. I think we're going to move this in a little bit, and we're actually going to shrink this a little bit more. There we go. So now all 5 of these clouds are relatively different. All right, I'm going to make these white for now. And I'm going to unlock the background. And we're going to darken that just 1 more shade. That way we have enough contrast for everybody to see. Those of you on Instagram, let me know if this is good or if you need me to rotate the camera even more. I can't do it well, actually, maybe I can. Let's see. All right, you guys can see the artboard, but you can't really see. All right, hopefully this is good. There we go. So now I've got the camera in front of my face, but at least good thing is that you can't see it on YouTube. All right. So now we have the clouds. Let's actually just create a quick sun. And now we have our sky. Right now, that's basically our sky. All right. So we've got that. Now, I think I actually want to add 1 more layer of dimension here. So if we look at this overall as a whole. Oh, someone asked if I can recreate the cloud creation process. Sure, no problem. So basically what I do is I take a circle on ellipses, and then I will take usually about 3 of them, and I will decrease the size of them in multiple ways, but simply like this. Then I will grab all the bottom points and then delete them. And then what I'll do is to close these off without having to get the pen tool, I'll hit Shift M, which grabs the shape builder, and it automatically closes the clouds. And then what I do is I will keep 1 as a copy, and then I will make a duplicate of it, and then just change the size of each of the pieces to make each cloud a little bit different. And there we go. That's the basic creation process for the clouds. Okay, so if we look at this illustration as a whole right now, we have the background, which is this layer, including the water. We have the middle ground, which is this. And then we actually don't have that much of a foreground. I mean, we could say that this part here is the background, and this is the foreground. But I actually want to add 1 more layer of complexity to this illustration. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add a foreground element. And so what that's going to be is it's actually going to be something similar to what we have over here. So we're going to grab a darker shade of gray, and we're going to do something similar to what we did, but we're going to do it in a very short manner. So we're not going to go all the way over to the other side. And then let's do 1 more over here. And this is actually going to negate that little piece that we did there, but that's okay. I wasn't the biggest fan of it myself. Okay, we're going to select all of these points, and we're going to round them. And we can actually take this and we can make it a little bit smaller. That's fine. But I think I'm going to get rid of this guy. Okay, so now we have the background, which are these elements here. These rolling hills plus this waterway. We have the middle ground, which are these 3 shapes here and the water. And then we have the foreground, which are these darker shapes. It's very simple. It can get very complicated, and I would definitely suggest if you're going to create some sort of illustration like this, that you don't go too complicated too quickly. Always start off more simple than complicated. It's the best piece of advice that I can give you. Let me see if I can't fix up my tripod a little bit better, because I don't want to have to keep looking over it. So just bear with me just for a second. Okay, and then let's fix this. There we go. That's a better view for you guys. Awesome. There we go. It's still a little bit of a nuisance with just like how I have my keyboard set up, but that's okay. All right. So from here, from this little setup, now what we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to start creating little elements. Now, one thing we could do is we could also add in another layer here and here. You can kind of see that in this example. We may do that later. Right now, we're not going to do that. The next thing we're going to start doing, though, is we're going to start figuring out where are we going to have certain elements like buildings or things like that. Or actually, let's start off by doing rocks. I think that would be a good part first. So the way that I do rocks is different depending on what I'm creating. So if we look up here at this little area, I'm just going to create a triangle. And I'm just going to round that corner. And boom, we have a rock. Now, sometimes I'll do something similar to what we're doing with the rolling hills, where we'll create a more defined boulder. Whoops, went a little too far there. And we'll move this over just a hair. And then we'll round these corners. It's important, though, to always keep these points sharp, because we don't want them to be rounded, because we want to show that they're peeking out from underneath the water. All right, so we're going to take this. We're actually going to decrease that a little bit. All right, I'm going to take this and we're going to zoom in, and we're going to place a couple. We'll place one here. And it also helps if you have like little sharp areas like this, this will actually help soften that up because you don't see that as much. So these are little coastline boulders. Decrease that a little bit there. We're going to align these together so that they're on the same plane. Let me move this up so everybody on Instagram can see. And we're going to decrease the shade color because we don't want them to be as dark as this part here. All right, we're going to move another one over here. We're going to make it a little bit bigger. And we're going to create one more because we're going to put probably, I think, one or a couple right here. I'm thinking that we might do a little pier here, but I'm not 100% sure. So we're going to do it just the way we did it before. How's everybody liking the illustration so far? Love to hear what you guys think in the chat. All right, we're going to take this, decrease it just a hair. We're going to pull this one here. It's good to have elements that you repeat. It's okay. You don't have to make everything 100% unique. It can repeat. That's perfectly fine. Someone on Instagram asked if I have any courses. Right now, I do have a daily drawing lessons course on like how to draw characters or face shapes and things like that. But right now, it's not for sale. I'm actually still working on my shop. And I am working on a course involving freelancing. Otherwise, all of my other stuff is pretty much free on YouTube if you'd like to take a look at some of my videos and tutorials. Okay, so I think we're good on the rocks. I don't think we need any more just yet. Let's actually start working on other elements. So I think what we're going to do is I think what we're going to do is we're just going to grab a rectangle and we're going to make it white for now. And we're just going to place it where we think we're going to do a building or two. So I think there's going to be a building here. And I think there's going to be one here. I'm not sure. Maybe we might do one small building here. I think it'd be better there. And we're going to make these smaller here because these are going to be farther out. And so we want to show that bit of dimension, right? If we had everything set up to where they were the same size, we would lose that illusion of dimension. So we're going to place them right here. We're actually going to make these a little bit thinner because I want to actually put 3 here. Again, this is just placeholder for now, just to get an idea of how we're going to get this set up. Thank you so much, Toxic Tomato. I'm doing pretty well. All right. And I don't think we're going to put any buildings up top here because we don't have a ton of room. I mean, we could probably put one. I think that's okay. A little trick, because if you'll notice, there's a little bit of a gap, right? So see there's a little bit of a gap here. One way that you can get rid of that is by selecting this with the direct selection tool, copying it, and then pasting it directly on top. And then taking this and hitting the align bottom. And see, look, now it's perfectly aligned. And we just deselect the rectangle, and then we delete the extra line. And now it's perfectly aligned there. It's something that I've dealt with so many times, and it's always been a pain in my butt when it comes to these types of illustrations. Sometimes aligning things won't work properly, and so you have to figure out ways of getting around it. All right, so we're looking good here. And one thing I like to do, the reason why, if you guys notice, everything that all these buildings that we're going to put in here, they are all directly on a slope, on a flat plane. They're not on a slope, or they might actually be behind a slope, that's fine, but they're not directly on top of something like this. I do that occasionally, but I kind of like how we're showing that this is perfectly uniform here. So I'm going to delete that there. All right. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to start creating these. And I'm actually going to look at these for reference. And we're going to start creating them off to the side here. So the first one we're going to create is this basic house here. In the past, what I'll do is whenever I create a series of these illustrations, I basically go through and copy the same house and use that as a basis for all the others. I would normally do that, but because of the fact that I can't open the file right now because it would possibly crash this iMac, I'm going to have to recreate it. And hopefully it's going to turn out as good as the original. That's always the fear. That's the thing, especially when you're doing live streams. There is always this little fear in the back of your mind. Is this going to be as good as the original? All right, so this is how I go about creating one of these houses. So we start off with a rectangle. And right now, this is this side of it, right? What we can do is this can just be an overlay. But this is the way I prefer to build these because we want to have multiple pieces. So I'm going to pull this over, and we're going to make this lighter. All right, so you can see here we're now showing dimension. This is the front, this is the side. And then what we're going to do is we're going to hit the plus button, which gives us the pen tool with a plus. We're going to add an anchor point here, and we're going to drag it up like this. So now we've got that side going pretty good. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select just this line here with the direct selection tool. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to paste it in front. And then I'm going to drag this over here. We're going to connect these with the pen tool. Whoops. Select that, pen tool. Whoops. Actually, we can just hit Shift M and it'll close it. Perfect. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to do something a little bit different. if you notice here, this is a little bit bigger than this. And we don't have that here, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to go into Object. We're going to go to Path, and we're going to do Offset Path. Now, one thing I've done is I've actually set up a shortcut. So I can actually go Shift Command P, and it'll automatically pull this up. But if you notice, what we can do here is we can expand this perfectly. Or excuse me, not expand, but we can offset it perfectly depending on what our needs are. So I'm not going to do 10. I think I might do, actually, maybe 10 would be a good idea. We're going to do 10. We're going to see how that looks. So we click OK. And now it's done. Our original is still there. But what it's done is it's create a copy that we're going to be using up here. So I'm going to just keep this. I'm going to bring this to the front. We're going to keep that piece here just in case we might want to change this. And now I'm just going to round the corners. And so let's see. We're going to round this 5. Right? Not 5. We're going to round this to about 3. And then we need to round these corners here separately, because if you notice, these corners, the way that this is set up, aren't rounded the same way. And we kind of want uniform. So we're going to do that double to 6. And now it feels a little bit more uniform. And that's like one of the easiest ways to go about doing this. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to copy it, paste it behind, and then we're going to go to Object, Transform, Reflect. So now that we have this behind it, we can bring it over here. And I can already see a little bit of a problem. We're going to send this to the back. And so we're going to darken this up. And do you guys see the problem already? This is a little too much over from here. So there's a couple of ways that we can change, that we can fix this. So we're going to bring this over a little bit. And we're going to increase the size. Bring this over again. And what we're trying to do here is we're trying to make sure that this corner matches up closely to this. And it looks like it does. Now we're going to decrease the size of this a bit so it has a little bit of an overlay. Grab these anchor points down here, drag them up. Oh, and there we go. And I almost think this is a little bit better than what we had before. Now, if this is something for that's going to be small, we don't have to worry about this lining up perfectly. If this was something that's going to be blown up gigantic, then we might want to make sure. But here's a little key piece of advice that I've come to teach myself. We don't always have to be perfect when it comes to these illustrations. One thing I've noticed here, though, is that these corners aren't exact. So I'm going to just increase it just a little bit more, and now it feels a little bit better. And you can even see, we're going to zoom in super close. And you can see this corner here isn't exactly touching. And we have to go so far into a zoom. We're at 2400% in order to see that that's not perfect. Am I going to fix it? Nope. I'm not going to fix it. Will it bother me? You bet your bottom dollar it will. And we're going to fix these as well here. We're going to put these to 8. It's just important to not focus too much on these little mistakes because they are super little. This is going to be a very small house in comparison to the overall illustration. We don't have to make things perfect, and that's okay. All right, so we basically have the house. We're going to play with the sizing a little bit. And then the other elements are super simple to do. Basically, if you look at this one here, we have the window. Whoops, there we go. All right, and one thing you'll notice is this is a little off. So what you can do is you can hit the direct selection tool. You can press shift and select this background. And then you press V to get the selection tool, and you press Option, click. Now what's that done is that selected this single shape here, and it's made it our main focus. So what we can then do is hit Align, and the window will align directly here. And if you notice, I'm going to undo that, and we're going to do that again. It's just a slight move over. So, but now it's perfectly straight. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit different. If you notice here, one thing that I never liked about this style was the fact that this is higher up than this. So we're going to make that feel a little bit better. So we're going to click and drag a copy of the window. We're going to put it over here. And then we're going to make the door. And so we're going to line a rectangle to the top of that. I'm just going to drag it. Select these 2 points up top here. Click and drag. And now we have our door. We're going to change these up to just some different colors. And there we go. We have our house. Now we can add just like a quick chimney, which is fine. We're just going to use the same color as the roof. Bring that over there. Make it the same color as that. Send it back. And there we go. And we can make it off to the side. We can bring it over here so there's not too much over there. Let's decrease the size of it a little bit. And there we go. We have a house. So now what we can do is we can group these together. We can go over here. And we can place them. So we can get rid of some of these blocks over here. Actually, yeah, we'll get rid of those blocks. We can take our little house that we created. Decrease the size a little bit. And again, we have that little issue. That's fine. We're just going to copy and drag these over. We'll do one more. We're going to drag this one over just a little bit. We're going to select these. And we're going to distribute them a little bit better. There we go. Copy them. Delete that. Paste them behind. And there we go. We've got that set up. Now, one thing I want to make sure is that we're not seeing a line. Yes, we are. We're seeing that corner right out top there. So we're just going to knock these down a little bit. Boom, boom. Perfect. And just so we have a little bit more contrast. Sorry about my dog shaking. Just going to make this white for now. And we'll make this a different color than the sky. And there we go. We have our first houses there created. It's super simple. It's something that once you see this, you're going to be like, oh my God, Rocky, why haven't I been creating houses like this? And it is a little funny. And it took me a while to actually figure out how to create these houses perfectly. So we're going to click and drag this over here. Let's get rid of the chimney. Let's get rid of the window there. We're going to create this like dock building here. So this is how simple this is. We're going to select with the direct selection tool just these areas. Make sure you can make sure and be a little bit accurate with certain parts, but just the stuff that's visual, we click and drag it. Whoops. Oh, we can already see a problem there. All right, let's redo that. Click and drag. And we can see that in that blue line there, that part is stretching. It's not a visual part. We don't have to really worry about that. But there we go. That's perfect. Now what we're going to do is we're going to drag these over, and we're just going to hit D to continue to create them. We're going to take this, and we're going to move it. I'm going to center that a little bit right there. Perfect. All right. And then what we're going to do is we're actually going to make this a little bit bigger. Because if we use this part in somewhere else in the illustration, we do want it to be bigger scale than the house. But we're going to grab the house's windows. Make that a little bit smaller or a little bit thinner. And we're going to try to align it to that top there. And it looks like it's aligned enough. And we're going to make 3 windows. And so basically what we're doing here is we're recreating some of these elements that we're seeing in these other illustrations, and that's fine. The one thing when you're creating a style or illustration style, or you're creating something that will be used in multiple types of projects. So for instance, if let's say that I was creating these illustrations for animation, and we are creating multiple videos, it's good to create elements or to have elements that you use throughout your illustrations, because you want to show things that are cohesive. That's very important when it comes to vector illustration. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring this over. Let's see. Where do we want to put this? Maybe this won't be, maybe this will just be like a warehouse or something like that. Maybe we'll put it back here. And we're going to decrease the size just a hair. We're going to move this cloud over here. We're going to switch these up just so that they're not competing with each other. Copy it. We're going to paste it behind here. And there we go. And again, we just need to make that one little change to the color like we did with the houses. And that's looking good. And so what we're doing here is we don't have to, this necessarily has to be a warehouse. It could be anything. It could be a factory or something like that. And so we're just creating stuff that's on the fly. So if you guys are enjoying what you guys are seeing today on the live stream, please remember to hit that like button on YouTube, hit the heart button here on Instagram. We are probably at, let's see, what are we at right now? We are at 51 minutes live. So we probably have like maybe another 10 or so minutes. So if you guys have any questions both on YouTube or on Instagram, please feel free to ask away and I'll try to answer them as we finish up what we have here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to jump on the live stream again tomorrow on Behance, and we're going to work on this illustration a little bit more. Hopefully by the end of the week or by maybe even Thursday, we'll have a fully fleshed out illustration. For those of you who are just tuning in or didn't join us at the beginning, the schedule for these live streams, and let me bring this over here so you guys can see it on Instagram. The schedule for the live streams moving forward. On Mondays and Fridays, I'm going to be going live on YouTube between 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Pacific time. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., I'm going to be going live on Behance. So that's the new schedule for the live streams. I'm going to try to stick to it. The only reason why I wouldn't stick to this schedule is if I got overloaded with client work or if, God forbid, I got sick. So, but that's going to be what we're going to be doing moving forward with the live stream. We're going to go back on here and start finishing some things up on today's illustration. But again, if you guys have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to ask away. All right, so we're going to create this double-decker building, this multi-story building here as I wait for any questions you guys have. So we're going to do just like we did before, except we're going to focus on the top. And we're just going to drag it up. We're going to keep one window but delete this one. We're going to center, and you can see here when I drag it, that little magenta mark shows that it's in the middle. And we're going to create two windows. The first one's going to be on this one here. And it doesn't have to be perfectly centered. Drag another one up here. Or actually, what we're going to do is we're going to do it this way. We're going to make these a little bit longer. Whoops. Do we want 3 windows? Does it have 3 windows? It does have 3 windows. Okay, we'll do 3 windows. Remember to distribute it to make sure it's even. Select this door here, and we're going to make sure that everything is lined up. Whoops. There we go. It's lined up. It looks like it's, yeah, it looks like it's a little off. We'll go. Just push that over just a couple. All right. How does this look? Okay. So I'm noticing one thing I did differently is I actually stacked these up above the door. So we'll just fix that. I think we can, one thing that we did was we elongated a little bit, so we'll decrease that a little bit. In fact, what is it set to? 40 pixels tall on there, and these are 32. So we'll drop this down to 32. Make sure that it's not linked. There we go. Drag this up here and drag this down there. Get rid of these windows. Boom. And there we go. Select the chimney, move that over. Copy it, bring it over here, and I think this is where I want this one to go. Whoops. Copy it. We're going to paste it in front of the slanted slope here. Keep that right there because we actually will probably do some sort of bush or something like that there. We're going to grab one of these houses, bring up the size, paste this behind it so that there's overlap. We're going to change this color back to what we had it. And now we have a little bit of a layering effect there as well. So what we're going to probably do is, in tomorrow's live stream, we're going to be working on details. So as you can see in these illustrations here, there's a lot of different things like grass and bushes and trees. And even little line marks here for the cliffside. And that's probably what we're going to be working on tomorrow. So we actually worked on the harder elements in today's live stream. So the next live stream will be a little bit more difficult. Yay for me. All right, we're going to create one more version of this house. And if you notice here, we have another version there. So we're going to create one like that. Where instead of the door being on the side here, it's going to be, or excuse me, on the front, it's going to be on the side. So we're going to delete that one and just drag this over. We're going to keep that, keep the window there, but we're going to actually do a little bit different and make a 3-window side. I'm going to bring this over, and we're going to distribute these. Perfect. Copy it, delete that, paste, reflect. And I'm going to tell you right now, one of the best tips I can give you when it comes to creating in Adobe Illustrator is actually to use shortcuts. Shortcuts will save you so much time, energy, and heartache in the future. So I would definitely suggest using that. Let's actually move this over so it's more flush. All right, I think we have one more house that we're going to create. And there's a good possibility we might create another house later on, or other buildings later on. We might change some things up. All right, so we'll put one of these there. So we'll reflect that. And there we go. Decrease the size of it. Actually, let's see what the size of this is. The height, copy the height of it, and paste it. There we go. We're going to paste that behind. All right, there we go. Actually, increase the size a little bit. Doesn't have to be exact. I'm actually really happy with this. This has turned out way better than I thought it would. I had some reservations about working in the style or completely redoing it in here without having the actual assets itself. But I actually think it turned out relatively well. So the goal is, with this illustration, is to create it completely from scratch and hopefully inspire you guys to create something from scratch as well. And hopefully you guys are. All right, so we have just hit the 1 hour mark on YouTube, which means we will probably be hitting the 1 hour mark here on Instagram in just a moment. I want to thank everybody who tuned in for today, for today's live stream, and watching me create this, asking the questions that you guys asked. This will be picked up again tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Let me actually jump into here so I can bring this up for everybody on the stream. It's going to go live again tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific time to 7 p.m. Pacific time on Behance Live. I will make sure to also go live here on Instagram for all of you who tuned in. And hopefully we will get a lot of these nitty-gritty details finished up with this illustration. And then the live stream on Thursday on YouTube from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. we'll be working directly with color, figuring out how we're going to go through and color these illustrations. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to today's live stream, for everything that you guys have done for me in the past, for following me, for commenting, for asking questions. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. If you guys ever have any questions that I didn't get to in today's live stream, you can always send me a DM on Instagram or on Twitter. I will try to answer as quickly as I possibly can. Until next time, always remember to stay passionate, stay positive, and stay creative, everybody. Hope you guys stay safe out there, and please don't do anything crazy. Always wash your hands and stay healthy. All right, guys, that's it from me. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Create something awesome. Bye.